First of all, thank you, Maggie, for the kind introduction. And on behalf of the United Farm Workers, the Chavez family, and the entire farm worker movement, I want to thank you for the privilege of being here today. You know, 50 years ago, Cesar and his wife Helen, he pulled up to his modest wood frame house on Kensington Street in Delano. That ended his first leg of his long organizing journey, and he covered nearly 15,000 miles in almost 90 days. He picked peas, he staked grapes, he suckered vines, and he met with more than 2,000 farm workers in the fields, along dirt roads, and inside hundreds of homes in one small farm town after another. By the mid-60s, the baby steps from those house meetings became the Delano grape strike. It was the longest continuing strike in farm labor history. The workers became transformed as they learned to do things that they had never thought were possible. They walked dark picket lines by 5 in the morning, standing all day on the edge of the fields, pleading with the strikebreakers to join the walkouts, getting arrested for violating injunctions, unconstitutional injunctions, and anti-picketing injunctions, being beaten and clubbed, even shot. Finally, moving the picket lines from the vineyards to the supermarkets in cities across North America, thousands of miles away, and convincing millions of Americans, consumers from all walks of life, to boycott grapes and other products. What began 50 years ago produced many changes for farm workers. In the process, farm workers inspired millions of others who never worked in the fields or in the farms to get involved in social and political activism. When Cesar started building what became the UFW on his birthday, March 31st, 1962, he had a different vision of what a union was supposed to be. Cesar, Dolores Huerta, Larry Leong, Pete Velasco, Andy Umutan, and many others, they began to study the movements, why the attempts to organize farm workers had failed over the previous 100 years. They were convinced that they had to do things differently. Cesar understood workers are not just workers. Of course, he knew it would take a union to address their issues, their economic issues, and the injustices farm workers suffer at the workplace. But farm workers also faced an array of crippling dilemmas outside the fields, such as discrimination, miserable housing, and inadequate education. Cesar knew it would take more than a union to overcome these burdens. It would take a movement that addresses people's needs at the workplace and beyond. So before he won union contracts, Cesar started organizing by providing services to people. There was a death benefit, a credit union, and even a gas station. Today, the Cesar Chavez Foundation, part of the farm worker movement, like the UFW, has built or renovated over 30 housing communities in 4 states, more than 4,300 units of high-quality, affordable housing for farm workers and other low-income working people. Most provide extensive social services. Back in 1962, farm workers demanded a minimum wage of $1.50. Today, after decades of UFW campaigning, the minimum wage is now $8, and we keep fighting for better pay. This year, the UFW has a bill heading for Governor Jerry Brown's desk. It would give farm workers what nearly all other American workers have: overtime pay after 8 hours a day. That bill would end the exclusion of farm workers from minimum wage. And these laws date almost back 3/4 of a century. Today, because of our movement, farm workers have won unemployment insurance, workers' compensation, toilets, and drinking water in the fields, the abolition of the short-handled hoe, and protections against toxic chemicals. Today, farm workers are covered under the first and still only law in the nation that allows farm workers to organize, the Agricultural Labor Relations Act. That CESAR and the UFW won in 1975. Recently, farm workers have won new protections through UFW contracts with the largest strawberry grower, Dolberry. We have the winery in the United States, Gallo Wine up in Napa. One of the biggest vegetable growers in the country, the Arrigo brothers, with 75% of the mushroom industry here in California under union contract. With one of the largest dairies in the nation that milks over 50,000 cows, and the biggest winery in Washington State, all under contract. Last year, the UFW got Governor Brown to sign a law making it easier for farm workers to organize, even when growers break the law and deny them the right to have their union. And thanks to the support of Maggie and everybody else, we did march. We had to march. We marched from Madera to Sacramento, 200 miles in 12 days. But it was for a result. That law went into effect on January 1st of this year. And as a result of these new changes, we are also now currently in negotiations with 3 major tomato growers that employ over 1,800 workers. Some of these workers live here in the areas like Patterson, Modesto, Stockton, Madera, Los Baños, Mendota. Some of these workers have not had a wage increase in over 20 years. And in 1962, the UFW's black Aztec eagle became our official symbol. In 2008, Barack Obama borrowed Cesar's words, "Si se puede," or "yes we can," as a theme of his presidential campaign. In 1962, death benefits for farm workers were a modest goal. Since then, UFW health and pension benefit plans had paid farm workers more than $350 million